Woo, that was a tough one. Arizona ekes it out over UCLA in what was a battle not played to Arizona's pace or liking, yet they still won. Thanks for joining Postcast. Postcast, full analysis coming up next.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into Postcast. Arizona won a nail-biter, a tough one where UCLA dominated tempo, UCLA controlled pace. Koa Peat did not impact this game due to foul trouble, due to double teams, and didn't handle it necessarily well. Braden Burries did not impact the game, was inefficient. Jaden Bradley for 30 of the minutes did not play well, but it was the seniors down the stretch that stepped up big time. First and foremost, Jaden Bradley during winning time stepped up just like he did against Florida. Awaka defended his tail off, rebounded, and Anthony Dell'Orso led all scorers for the Wildcats and knocked down a huge go-ahead three to put Arizona up 60-59. It went back and forth from there. So much to get through in this one, but really the storyline is Arizona won a game that was completely dictated by UCLA in terms of tempo. UCLA set the tone with a physical start to the game, did not let Arizona get out and run and play quickly, long, arduous possessions. UCLA probably out-executed Arizona with a lot of those pick and pop things. But at the end of the game, Arizona had better players, and their best player did not play well, yet still had enough to beat a team that is Sweet 16 good. I don't think UCLA is great. I don't think they hit their peak, but they're very, very well coached. They're very disciplined, and they're a team that defensively can give anyone problems, and they did that to Koa Peat, which very few teams can do. Arizona did not shoot particularly well, lower than their usual standard. They went 26-55 for 47%, but that's just a testament to how good Arizona's offense is, especially when their best two players were not good throughout the majority of the game, and Pete was not good throughout the entirety of the game. And Jaden Bradley went 6-10, 15 points. And those last couple minutes where he scored 9 of the last 12, absolutely monumental. But before then, non-factor in the game. And Donovan Dent didn't do much, so good, kudos to Bradley defensively. But this is a game that if you were to say those statistics, the score line, I'd probably say UCLA controlled it. But to me, that's a testament to what Arizona has on their team. They have veteran leadership. They have talented players that work well together. And it's not all about Koa Peat. It's not all Koa Peat. And Koa Peat was the first to celebrate his team. You look at kind of the statistics. We'll dive into this. But you look at the first half, I felt pretty good Arizona to win this game. They did, but it didn't necessarily follow the script. But here's the sentence I wrote. No Koa Peat, basically no Jaden Bradley in the first half, and the game is slow like UCLA wants, but Arizona leads at the half, and Burries, Aristote, and Karchenkov didn't play well either. How are you up? How are you up in that game? And you're up 3. Arizona wins this game by 4. It was circuitous. It was not straightforward whatsoever, but Arizona found a way to win, and that's what you really need. That has been the complaint of a lot of you guys as fans from the last couple of years. Teams that can, when they play their A game, might be the best team in the country, like that number 1 seed a couple of years ago. Arizona won the game against a team that slowed them down, stayed fairly close in the rebounding battle. Arizona couldn't shoot from 3 for much of this game other than Anthony Dell'Orso. Their best player was held in check and actually struggled immensely aside from foul trouble. And yet they found a way to be resilient and win. That's a testament to Tommy Lloyd instilling belief in this team that they can win in different ways. Thank you guys for hopping in this chat. There's a lot of you guys in here. I'll try to get to some of the questions. And I do think that this game is actually one of the biggest turning points. Not that they needed a turning point of the season, but it's a liminal space because it's a transition from what has been where Arizona likes to play fast and Arizona needs to play fast to win. They don't win the games that get slowed down. Of course, that's everyone's goal against Arizona to slow them down, but it doesn't necessarily mean victory. And this is a game that Mick Cronin should have won. It was physical. It was played at their tempo. and Arizona could not do what they like to do in terms of getting the ball in the interior. UCLA had an excellent game plan, loading up, doubling on catches for Peat, playing a backside guy, daring the skip pass to shoot the three as opposed to allowing the high lows, making guys like Burries, Karchenkov, and Aristotle beat them. And Arizona still found a way to win. That means a ton to me. Let's talk about the veterans. And I'm just going to do some statistical recaps. Then we'll get to the keys of the game and go through some more. And thank you guys again for tuning in. This is such a great start to the season. And Arizona's number 5 in the country and should only go up despite not playing their best in this game. Have beaten Florida and have beaten UCLA, both of whom they were supposed to lose to. We're off to a good start of my prediction of Arizona getting to the top 3 spots in the country because you're only 2 away right now and you have the best resume in all of America right now. We'll go through that a little bit, but let's get to the statistics. This was a game that Tommy Lloyd should thank his seniors, and this is why there should be faith in Arizona, because a lot of people say, oh, well, if you have freshmen, then you're going to lose these games. Well, Jaden Bradley, of course, was great at the end of the game. Arizona made their last 4 field goals. That was a lot of Jaden Bradley right there. You look at Tobe Awaka. His stats don't necessarily tell the story. He had 8 points, 10 rebounds. Defensively, he was a monster, switching onto Donovan Dent, shut down Bilodeau after Bilodeau was great in the second half. And then Anthony Dell'Orso led all scorers with 20, hitting 4 threes in that go-ahead 3 that was huge, and made the free throws that put this game away. Those guys won this game. The combination of freshmen, Koa Peat, 7 points, had this worst game, maybe his worst game all year that I think he will have. Like, I don't think teams are going to slow him down like that. Just disjointed, double-teamed, physical, fouled, all those things that you can't control. And then you look at Burries and Karchenkov. They combined to score 9 points on 3 of 13 shooting. And then Aristotle, 0 of 2. So the freshmen were horrible in this game effectively. Yet the defense, the tenacity, rebounding was big. And I thought Mo Krivas had a stretch where he controlled the game. Where Arizona had their best stretch of the game was Mo Krivas dominated. 10 points and 8 boards. And he blocked a lot of shots or altered them as well. I really liked what Mo Krivas did. So the veterans won this game for Arizona. The freshmen should still improve. And the best player on the team did not do well. Let's talk about what UCLA did, talk about the keys that I outlined before this game and how they ended up being statistically, because Arizona didn't dictate the tempo of this game. They did not necessarily win many of the statistical battles, but where they did win is important. We'll talk about that and a lot more coming up next on Locked On Wildcats Postcast. It's almost the weekend. It's basically the weekend for you guys. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players deliver when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Arizona, Jaden Bradley delivered in a big way tonight. He delivered in a big way against Florida. When it was tied at 67 against Florida, he went crazy and dominated the game, scoring 10 in a row. In this game, he scored 9 in the final 12. So when the pressure was on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching him for years with the Wildcats, this was to be expected. Jaden Bradley's on a streak. And just like Jaden Bradley delivered for the Wildcats, DoorDash delivers on Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period is active through November 18th, so certainly use it now. Welcome back to Postcast. Arizona survives against UCLA, a game that UCLA was probably the more comfortable team in. They had the home crowd. Arizona, of course, traveled well and had a chance. Arizona struggled. Their best players didn't necessarily have good games, and nor did UCLA's really. And that's important because UCLA's best players not having a good game ties directly to Arizona's, because in a game like that, you can't let the other team's best players control and one team not have it. At the end, Jaden Bradley loomed the largest. He wasn't great throughout the game, but he picked and chose his spots, limited what Donovan Dent did, who's the best player for Arizona, and Tyler Bilodeau at the end of the game was less impactful. One thing that I think is very important to note, and I wrote this in my notes, and it was the first thing that Cheney said in the post game on Peacock, was that Arizona was getting beaten by hedging playing the high hedge with a drop with Tobe Awaka and Krivas both on the floor. They would try to do that, and they didn't have the speed to recover. And what was happening was Tyler Bilodeau was getting open threes. Early in the game, it was Xavier Booker hitting open pick and pop shots. Arizona stopped doing that, and they started switching, and that just showed how easily able Arizona is to adapt because they have elite personnel. They have the best top 8 in the country, among the very best. And in a game that was driven by UCLA, Jaden Bradley, Anthony Dell'Orso, Tobe Awaka, and Mo Krivas won this game. Where the freshmen are only going to get better, Arizona is already a top 5 team in the country, and we're able to survive a hostile environment and figure out a way to win a game in which they did not shoot well from the field, did not shoot well from 3. Koa Peat, non-factor. Jaden Bradley, non-factor for 30 minutes. Braden Burries, Ivan Karchenkov, Dwayne Aristode didn't hit anything. So they didn't necessarily play well and beat a team in their home city, not their home stadium, but in their home city that is exceedingly well coached. Mick Cronin is one of the best X's and O's game plan type coaches in the country. He controlled the tempo, and Arizona still found a way to win without a monster performance from an All-American caliber player in Koa Peat. So let's go through some statistics, and this, I think, will illustrate that point. So my keys to the game that I wrote out and I kind of described and I thought would really let Arizona win this game because I thought it would be a little higher scoring. I think I said 79-71. It was 69-65, and it was not comfortable whatsoever. I see a chat in the comments about Bill Walton. I'll get to him in a moment. I have a fun impression for you guys as well. And I see another chat in the comments that says, I don't know if this team could win without Koa, and you know now. Well, that is a way, because when a team is so reliant on one player, much like the way that Cooper Flagg felt last year, where he was the guy against Kentucky, they lost those games. As the team around him got better, Duke was very, very difficult to beat. Con Knippel started rising to the occasion. Well, Arizona's got more of an egalitarian attack, and I think there's a lot of room to grow. So let's get to the keys. My first key was control the pace and the paint. So the goal was plus 20 in terms of points scored, including points in the paint plus free throws more than UCLA. So I wanted Arizona to have 20 more points in the paint plus free throws than UCLA had points in the paint plus free throws. It was 38 points in the paint for Arizona, 20 for UCLA, 11 free throws made for the Wildcats, and 6 for UCLA. That's plus 23. So they accomplished that. However, pace was not even close. It was UCLA's tempo from the get-go. Arizona fell behind 15-5 in this game, and I actually felt strangely good about it because there was no way they'd continue to turn over the ball at the same rate that they did, and they were forcing turnovers as well. They were 1 of 9 to start the game, and they only were trailing by 10 in a game where it seemed to be, wow, can you survive this rally? Can you survive this rally and get past it? And that's what Arizona did then, and I felt pretty confident they'd find a way to be the better team for the remainder of the 30 minutes. They were not better for the next 30, but they were better in the more critical junctures. So the next key was stay close in the three-point battle, because I figured that UCLA would shoot more. I was not necessarily correct in that, but I was accurate in saying that they should be within 3 made threes. I think I said that they have to be within 5 at the most. So Arizona went 6 of 19 from 3. UCLA shot very well from 3, 9 of 17. So Arizona was minus 9 in the three-pointers made, and they didn't shoot particularly well, but that what mattered is that Anthony Dell'Orso made those. They just need one of the guys like Anthony Dell'Orso, Dwayne Aristode, Ivan Karchenkov, and Braden Burries to knock down a couple. And if ideally those guys are going to get better, and you're going to get a couple of them hitting a couple each time. Now, the third one was do not foul, because what Arizona had struggled with was perimeter defense. Though this game was played at UCLA's preferred style of play, physical, slow, double the post, make the shooters beat you in a very well-schooled pack line defense that's going to play extremely physically, Arizona was able to play disciplined in the way that they defended. They did not foul, and they ran guards off the line. Donovan Dent was kept out of the paint for the large part, And then when players did get to the paint, Mo Krivas loomed extremely large, changed so many shots, rebounded, and was very aggressive offensively and finished with authority, going 5 of 6 from the field and hitting a tough hook shot. But more importantly, dunked the ones he got on the inside. And I thought Mo Krivas had Arizona. He was the best player on the floor for Arizona's best stretch of the night when they built that lead to go up by a couple points in the midway through the second half. They soon relinquished that lead when Krivas left, and it was a 7-0 run by UCLA when Koa Peat came in. Koa Peat's not going to play this poorly. Koa Peat had 7 points, just 7 points, and 3 of them were off of free throws, and just 4 rebounds, and he got in foul trouble early and often, just played 21 minutes, had a boatload of turnovers, 6 of them. He's not going to play that badly. Arizona played the game the way UCLA wanted, didn't shoot particularly well, and were not phased at all. They knew what they needed to do. They knew, hey, at the end of the game, we've got a point guard in Jaden Bradley that can get to where he wants. And he picked and chose his spots and did very well. There's no reliance on 3 from Arizona. What they do, and I've said this to all the everydayers, thank you very much for listening all the time. I've said this 1,000 times. Arizona has a repeatedly and reproducibly excellent offense because what they do is they score on the interior at a very high level. They didn't score at the interior at a very high level, but still knew where their bread was buttered and went to the interior because they went 6 of 19 from 3. They do not need to rely on the 3. They do have to go to the rack, and in a game where they were not good at the rack, they still were able to score enough offensively, partially because they did what I had been begging them to do and win the rebounding battle. They were better on the glass in this game against a bigger and more physical team than they had been against Utah Tech or NAU. They won the rebounds by 7, and when they made their best runs, they were dominant on the glass with Awaka and Krivas. And Tobe Awaka needs a lot of love. I'm seeing that in the chat, and I'd mentioned him before, but Tobe Awaka was switching on defense. The switching is what won Arizona the game. That's when their best defense came. Like when they fell behind, it was Xavier Booker hitting pick and pop shots because Arizona was playing drop. And then also later ended up hedging and kind of daring Xavier Booker to shoot, but they certainly weren't daring Bilodeau. I would say Mick Cronin out-coached Tommy Lloyd in the sense of he got the shots that he wanted. He got the tempo that he wanted. Arizona's just a more talented team and showed resolve and poise. And Tobe Awaka was able to be a game breaker because he was able to switch. And they also, while he was switching, he could stay out in the perimeter and make them shoot over him. But also, if they got to the rim, Krivas could also be on the rack and protect the rim. And they did a great job. Awaka had like a pass breakup, essentially, on what was an alley-oop of sorts. When Krivas changed the shot, it was supposed to be, no one's there to help the helper. Well, no, Tobe Awaka comes in and saved the day. The veterans for Arizona looked like they've played a lot of basketball, and they have. And the hard-nosed play of Tobe Awaka, Jaden Bradley picking his time to attack and being very effective when attacking, hitting an open 3 when it needed it most on what was a very heady play by Krivas to kick it out, and Awaka getting extra chances, sliding his feet defensively, stopping Donovan Dent, stopping Sky Clark, stopping Eric Daly, stopping the fadeaway from Tyler Bilodeau, who I thought was great in the second half. I told you in the preview, Tyler Bilodeau is a pick and pop threat. He's a guy who probably leads the team in scoring. Donovan Dent's the guy who carries the torch and stirs the drink. If you slow those guys down, you're going to win this game. And Bilodeau was arguably the best player in the second half until the final moments where Bradley and Awaka loomed large on the opposite sides of the floor. Krivas looks better to me. I see that a comment in here that says he's progressing. I've been saying defensively he's been great all year. Offensively, if you get any of the aggression he showed today, that's icing on the cake. Arizona has a very clear recipe all season. Play quickly. Okay, that's X'd out. UCLA did not let that happen. You could not play quickly. But if you play quickly, rebound the ball, and play the way they do and getting so many of their shots near the rim, then you're going to win games. This game, they only could do 2 of those 3. Usually they're undeniable in going 3 for 3 in that. And they still were able to win with their best player, an All-American caliber player, a complete non-factor. And for 30 minutes of the game, their second best player, a potential All-American in Jaden Bradley, playing poorly. Bradley was enormous down the stretch, but he was not good at all for the first 30 minutes. Like, he was guarding Dent well, but they were switching. So I wouldn't say it was all Jaden Bradley either. And then in terms of controlling the pace, he had a lot of turnovers, was not shooting open shots. Burries was also on the floor as the point guard during one of Arizona's bigger runs. I didn't think he was good until the final 6 minutes of the game. But if you're going to tell me which 6 minutes you're going to get an All-American caliber guard, I'll take that one. And I said this in a episode a little while ago. The everydayers may remember which one. I said all great teams need a guard that can be an All-American. And Jaden Bradley has the capacity to outplay an All-American like Donovan Dent. Donovan Dent was picked second-team All-American. Jaden Bradley was the better guard today, especially down the stretch. UCLA, hard-nosed, difficult team to play. Mick Cronin, I think, got the better of Tommy Lloyd stylistically in this matchup. Arizona's more talented, has seniors, and everyone said, oh, like UCLA's more experienced. Yeah, they're more experienced than the entirety of Arizona's team, but Arizona's seniors have done more winning than UCLA's. Tyler Bilodeau was on a terrible Oregon State team and a team that was a 7 seed last year at UCLA. Donovan Dent was on New Mexico. He was great in a totally different conference, in a totally different role. And I just think that Arizona seniors have been disrespected. And while Koa Peat's fantastic and he deserves all the flowers he's received, he had a bad game today. Yeah, inexperience will happen. But if you have guys to help elevate the rest of the team, you're going to win a lot of games. We got another break coming up, and then we'll round out some thoughts. Send over some questions if you have any about UCLA, and we'll preview slightly about the Connecticut game, which I think is going to be a doozy. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got more postcast coming your way next. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to the fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Postcast. Thank you again for hopping in. And I think Arizona is positioned to be the third-ranked team in the country following this week. If it were up to me, I would rank Purdue number 1. They just beat Alabama on the road. That may be the best win of the season. I think I'd probably give Duke the nod at 2. And I would say UConn is probably the third best team in terms of what they've demonstrated. This is a team that I had ranked 3 entering the year. But in terms of resume, Arizona's ahead of both those teams and ahead of Houston. So this is a team that's top 4, top 5 in the country. You cannot dispute that. And I do think that Arizona's got a ton to improve. Here is a list of things I have written to improve, not just from this game, but on the season. From this game, their best player wasn't good. I've reiterated that a lot of times. Koa Peat was bad in this game. From this game, the freshman class was ineffective. From the entire season, Braden Burries, who's I think still will be the third leading scorer of this team, and I would caution patience. I would say he's been bad throughout the season, has forced the ball, seems a little sped up at times, and more concerning than that, he just hasn't shot well. I don't think it's concerning in the long term, but he's missed open shots, and he's forced others because he's a little overzealous, a little impatient to get there. I almost think that's a good thing because he wants to impact so badly. He was flying around really playing hard defensively, and he's just missing open shots. The guy's going to figure it out. He's a talented scorer. So your third leading scorer on the season, at least what I think it will be, has not played well. Mo Krivos wasn't particularly good until this game offensively. Ivan Karchenkov has played poorly 3 games in a row. Aristode's been the epitome of streaky. So you have a lot of room to grow on the perimeter in terms of shooting. Dell'Orso has been very good. Mo is going to be an all Big 12 caliber player. I'm just going to say honorable mention. I don't think he's going to have the statistics, but his impact will be that good. And then the other thing that I don't think Arizona's done well enough yet, that I think they will improve on because of the ability for Krivos and Awaka to play similar times, and Koa Peat's tenacity was slowed down for the 2 games prior to this one. This one, he just was not great. But Arizona should rebound better than they have. Like, Arizona won the rebounds +7 today, and I would say that's a good enough number. But against Utah Tech and NAU, they didn't win by enough. They were able to beat Florida, who then the next game was +40 against North Florida. Yeah, it's an inferior opponent, but Arizona's played 2 inferior opponents, and was only barely double digits against both those teams, despite winning by nearly 30 points in each of those games. Or, sorry, more than 30 and then nearly 30 in the other one. So I just think that there's a lot of moving pieces for Arizona to improve, and they're already a top 5 team in the country. I've laid out my pitch a number of times for you guys. Arizona beats Florida, beats UCLA, and for those of you who've been there every day, thank you very much. And I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but I told you guys they'd beat Florida. I told you to beat UCLA. I was a little nervous, I'll admit. I was a little nervous in this game, but they played badly and still beat a good UCLA team. I think UConn, I said this from the beginning, is the most difficult game that they're going to play. And I don't think UConn's a good matchup for Arizona. But after seeing them play poorly and beat UCLA in a hostile environment, anything's possible right there. And I will dive into that in very, very much detail. Auburn, I don't think has a good team. Like I think Auburn can score. They can't defend at all, and they play quickly. That plays right into Arizona's hands. And Alabama has warts. They shoot a ton of threes. Purdue out-rebounded them by 25. Braden Smith, a 5'10 point guard, had more rebounds than the entire front court for Alabama. With the personnel Arizona possesses, they should be able to out-rebound Alabama by a lot. And if they're at all competitive, not just in terms of three-pointers made, but they make Alabama shoot shots that they're not used to shooting, and they control the game by scoring in the interior at such a high rate because Alabama's not good defensively, they can win that game despite it being in Birmingham. They just proved they can win in a hostile environment. Even if it's called a neutral site, that's a road game. I think Arizona can start 19-1 to start the season because their Big 12 Big 12 play to start is easy. This is a team that will be ranked within the top 3, whether this week, next, or soon. I really see that vision, and I don't think Arizona's close to their ceiling. Now let's go into one more thought that I had in this game. So I'm going to go back to my preview notes, and for those of you listening, this is going to sound familiar, but I wrote if the combination of Burries and Awaka can score 22, and then add in Krivas, so around 28 to 30 points between them, and then Dell'Orso, Karchenkov, Aristode, who are supporting pieces, those 6 combined to score 20 or more, it seems difficult to imagine them losing. That was assuming Koa Peat would score around 20 and Bradley around 16. Bradley was around 16. He scored 15. But you look at that. Burries, Awaka, and Krivas. You look at the statistics there. Burries had 5. Awaka had 8 and Krivas 10. That's 23. So under that, well under the Bradley and Peak projection. Dell'Orso scored 20 on his own. And then you look at Aristode and Karchenkov, didn't impact the game at all, really. And they still found a way to win. So, like, the numbers I gave, I didn't think were super crazy. I felt like they were fairly modest. And yet, Arizona underachieved in all aspects of that. Pace was in favor of UCLA. Most of the game, UCLA was the more efficient team scoring the ball. Arizona clamped up at the end. Despite UCLA shooting over 50% from 3 in this game, Arizona still found a way to win. Like, I'm very, very impressed by the resolve, the problem solving. And I think there's a lot of room to grow despite just having beaten a top 15 team essentially on the road after having beaten the reigning national champions in the opening day of the season with completely different formulas. One of them, he scored 93 points and you rode a star freshman to 30 points. The other time, you got 7 points out of that star freshman playing half the game with 6 turnovers and was completely a non-factor. They double-teamed him, said make a bunch of threes, and in the other game, they single-covered, and there's a totally different formula. Pace is totally different. Possessions were completely in UCLA's favor, and Arizona still is able to win. And the only similarity of those 2 games is Jaden Bradley, during a big moment, stepped up and scored. And I think Tommy Lloyd, though I think Mick Cronin won the coaching battle in terms of execution, playing his style, I think Tommy Lloyd switching between switching defense and playing a style of mixing up drop coverage versus hard hedges, all 3 of those different things, is partially because you have the personnel. Awaka can do different things than Krivas. Peat can do different things than all those guys. But at the end of the game, you had both Awaka and Krivas in the game and still switched because you could 1 through 4 and you still had a rim protector in. Tommy Lloyd not being stringent to his game plan, which was getting beaten by the pick and pop throughout the game that was clearly part of the game plan instituted by UCLA, was a huge key in this game. Tommy Lloyd was not stubborn and was not willing to go down with the ship of saying, oh, we're going to blitz the ball screen. They switched, and they won the game because they played isolation defense and took pride in defending their guy, switching and taking them out of actions that swung the ball. Robbie Hummel at the end of the game was like, oh, UCLA, I'd like to see them throw the ball and get to the second side before using a ball screen. They couldn't because the ball screen wouldn't give them an advantage. It would get them a different player to guard. And Arizona sat down in the stance, namely Tobe Awaka. Jaden Bradley did a good job too. Karchenkov did at the very end as well, and would not yield an advantage. They would not give an advantage and kept defending with their feet and able to impact that game by Tommy Lloyd saying, you know what, I'm getting beaten with this pick and pop. Bilodeau's hitting too many threes because he's setting the screen popping and we can't recover in time because we're not stretching it out and trapping the ball screen or making them go far enough back. And he switched up what he was doing, and that adjustment won them the game. At the end of the game, UCLA was too stagnant because Arizona switched and took pride in their individual defense. I've said this a bunch of times. I said this at the beginning of the season. There's no reason Arizona shouldn't think they can win a championship. This is probably the worst game all season that Koa Peat plays. You played in a hostile environment. You didn't shoot very well. You shot under 50% from the field, which Arizona will rarely do because they shoot so many of their shots from the field, from 2-point range and very close in 2-point range. You did not have support from Jaden Bradley for 30 minutes of the game, maybe even a little more. You didn't have a good game from Burries, and you still found a way to win. And I think there's a championship aspiration because there's a recipe. You're going to play good defense. And I'll say my recipe again. I think when it's all said and done, this team is going to be top 20 in tempo, top 10 in offensive efficiency, top 20 in defense, and top 20 in rebounding. I think it's a 1 seed, a 2 seed, and they're well within their path. And you know, the one last component I neglected to mention then, you know, I always say you probably want an All-American. You want an All-American on your team, and you need an all-conference guard, and they have both. They got Koa Peat, and they got Jaden Bradley, and Jaden Bradley is the one consistency between these two games. Against Florida, he closed the game with the 10-0 run by himself, moving that game into his own hands. And this one, he scored 9 of 12 to finish. Dell'Orso also had a monumental 3. And one more thing, I haven't mentioned Dell'Orso. The guy's shooting great, and he looks more mobile with the ball in his hands. But I'm so impressed by he and Tobe Awaka's maturity to say, you know what, I don't care if I'm starting or not. If I can win a championship and contribute in an enormous fashion, we'll come off the bench and play our role with pride. So thank you guys for listening to Postcast. We're going to break this game down in more depth rather than spitball all these different takes, which I think there'll be some redundancy. But in terms of redundancy, I'll be able to analyze the game even better. I think Arizona is going to have a real chance to pull another upset in Stores. I think this is the hardest game of the entire season, actually, because you have to travel across the country. You're playing a team that stylistically is very difficult to play, but I don't think Arizona should feel like this game is out of reach because they can win a championship. We'll end it right there. Thank you for tuning into Postcast. Arizona with a big-time, gritty, resolve-filled win over the rival UCLA Bruins. And last thought, actually, I love Bill Walton. He's one of my favorite commentators I ever listened to as a kid listening up. So if you guys have listened to Frank Caliendo before, there was a spoof, a skit where Bill Walton was impersonated by Frank Caliendo, and I love it. So I memorized it as a kid. And it goes a little like this. I remember being at Berkeley, not watching the beard connecting on my face. I could smell colors. I could feel sounds. Has there been a better player than Detlef Schrempf? Watching him shoot from the outside was unbelievable. And this game was unbelievable. Bill Walton was fantastic. The Conference of Champions, in my mind, is still alive and well. Go Arizona. Bear down. Huge win over Bill Walton's Bruins. Rest in peace to Bill Walton. So happy they put this on to celebrate him. Huge win for the Wildcats.